I'm Bob Savakinus. Welcome to our program in a nutshell. Today we have three very special guests joining us from Los Angeles and various parts of the country, filmmakers that came here to make a movie in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I want to welcome them as our very special guests. We have Mark Savage, Jeff Miller, and Robert Bronzi. Gentlemen, welcome to our program today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I'll start off with just going with Jeff. Jeff, you've been a producer, director, writer for approximately 40 movies. Just tell us a little bit about your career in general.
Well, I started out as a screenwriter many years ago. I moved into producing just because it was very hard to get into. I was from the Carolinas. It was a little hard to sell screenplays, spec screenplays. Got into producing. I did a few movies in South Carolina. Then I moved to Los Angeles in 2001. I've made a bunch of movies since then and traveled all over the country and in other countries too, England, for instance, doing other movies. So I love traveling outside of LA, finding different locations and different looks for movies than the ones you typically get in Southern California.
Thank you. Mark, how about a little bit about your career, how you got started in the film industry?
Yeah, I started making films when I was a kid, made Super 8 movies, and then got into doing commercials and corporate videos and that type of thing, but I really always wanted to do features. And then I did my first feature so it was a long time ago in Australia, but then I've also worked in probably the first 5 or 6 features in Australia, and then done about another 9 or 10 here since then. And just always been interested in sort of crime, horror, which we did here, and sort of more intense, bizarre kind of dramas.
Okay. Northeastern Pennsylvania, we have a lot of great unique locations. We have coal mines, we have trolleys, we have trains, we have so many unique features in this area, and obviously we were able to bring filmmakers in from Los Angeles to come here and make a movie. Jeff, kind of what attracted you to the area? What made you want to make a film in Northeastern Pennsylvania?
Well, I was shooting a movie in Oneonta, New York last May, 2022. And on our day off, I came down to visit. You've kindly invited me to come and see some locations in Pennsylvania. And so I drove down here, wasn't that far of a drive, and I saw coal mines and a train yard and a restaurant and just some lovely, beautiful locations that we don't see much in California. I always like going places to do where you get different looks. And so it seemed like the people were going to be very friendly and amenable between you and Scott Herring with the Anthracite Cultural Board. I thought the people were very accommodating and friendly, and I just happened to have a script that kind of fit the area. I went back, revamped the script a little bit to take advantage more of the locations that I saw specifically, and 13 months later, here we are.
It's going to be a great success story for us here in Northeastern PA to have the opportunity to have made this movie here and then have the opportunity to get it screened. And I know, Jeff, you have a great track record. Your movies get out there on DVD. They get out there on streaming services, playing at various theaters, drive-ins, things like that. So thank you for coming to this area to make this movie possible.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'd like to turn to our star of the movie, Mr. Bronzi. What did you think of filming a movie in Northeastern Pennsylvania?
So I'm happy here, and I'm very happy with my friends and staff, because they are amazing people. So we shot in different locations. They are very interesting. It's very similar to my country because I came from Hungary, and my father was a coal miner also. So I was in a couple of times in mine, not like a worker, but it was very interesting to see again a mine and working filming together with amazing stuff.
Well, I know you seem to share a good shared heritage of us here in Northeastern Pennsylvania, as you just mentioned, from the coal mining era that your family your dad was involved with and everything. So we have a very hard, strong work ethic here in Northeastern Pennsylvania, and we welcome you as being an actor to come here, and we thank you for making a movie here as well.
And I would like to turn back if it's possible.
I would love to.
In the near future, maybe.
That will be our goal as we get into a little more of our discussion.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. So.
That's what we want to hear.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mark, what was it like directing this movie? And we'll talk a little bit more about the movie once we get into a little more details. But as far as other films that you've directed and everything. How did you feel the locations challenged you? For our audience that's not familiar, we filmed in a coal mine, we filmed at a railroad station, we filmed partially in Centralia. I believe it was about 16 locations,
Yeah.
but I would rather you elaborate a little bit on it.
Yeah, the film had a lot of locations, and what really attracted us, aside from the fact that, you and Scott and all that just made the experience really pleasurable, but was, taking us to really kind of locations that were very, very unique, like in a way unique to the US. And so as a director, I'm always looking at like the visual possibilities of each location. And so then you sort of weigh it up against like, is it something that's also practical to shoot in, or is it something that might look good, but it's actually impractical to shoot? But we sort of found that middle ground, between, some of the, locations, like even in the mine. The mine's got its own, like, you're dealing with practical issues like, just a little bit of cold, a little bit of isolation of going in there and having to go in and out, like on a train. There's a little bit of water dripping here and there and that type of thing. But the upside is much, much bigger than the downside, because there really is no downside to shooting at a lot of the locations here, because as a filmmaker that there's always going to be something that's going to be a challenge. But the question then becomes, is what the results you're getting worth the challenge? And of course it is, because it's just bloody fantastic locations here. The mine was amazing, like truly amazing. I remember when Jeff and I saw it, we were just blown away. Then we took our DP, Michael Sue, in there, and Michael Sue and I then afterwards were just exchanging photos and exchanging comments, and we're saying, oh God, can't wait to shoot in there. We also shot at a train yard as well. The entire, it was like a private railroad, which we had full access to, which was, again, really fantastic. So you're getting something here that you do not get anywhere else in the country, but we're also getting incredible support and hospitality from people here. And that's something that's priceless. You can't even put a price on that, because that's just really makes it just such a wonderful experience to shoot, because shooting is difficult. Shooting's never easy, even on the best locations. But personally, and I think maybe the same with Jeff, I really always prefer to shoot on location than in studios. I'm personally not a huge fan of shooting in front of green screens and doing all that. I'd rather get right into the raw, the gritty of the locations, and that's what you get here. You get like incredible, the mountains, the trees, the woods, the train area, the mines. So you're just getting like a cornucopia of locations in this specific area. So it just made the film a real a pleasure to make, but also knowing you're getting something that's visually spectacular nearly all the time.
And I think that is what our goal is in northeastern Pennsylvania, is we want to get the word out. Please take the word back to Los Angeles and to your friends out in Hollywood that we have great locations, we have great people that can work together here to make movies happen and everything. And obviously that's something we'll want to discuss here internally in our area to try and expand.
Well, I should also point out, that we only brought a very small amount of LA people here, like tiny percentage. So most of the crew were local crew. And that's really important to us, that when we go to other states and other cities, that we actually mostly work with local crew. I mean, there's so many advantages that they know the area. They also they'll already have a chemistry between them, and they already have a familiarity. So we're strangers coming in here. So every day you're getting to know the area, but when you already work with, majority of local people, it just makes the experience a lot more cohesive. You're not just getting to learn everything, because if you came with a full crew from another state, you'd still be strangers in a state. So I'd much rather the idea that we make an effort to integrate here, rather than expecting people to integrate with us. And that's what worked really, really well. Like we get here, people are wonderful, took no time really to integrate here, because we're leaning and relying on like local people like yourself and like Scott and like Beth, who know everybody here and are able to help us to kind of like negotiate the little nooks and crannies and the challenges of the location.
Yeah, it was a great crew. Like I would work with anybody on the local crew. I would work with any of them again. So yeah, they were just outstanding.
It's good to hear. Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the movie itself. It's called 12 to Midnight. Tell us what details you are able to and want to share with us today about the movie.
I mean, in a nutshell,
thank you.
a detective is despondent over the recent death of his wife. She's been murdered. The perpetrator is still at large. He kind of, is driven to drink. He's kicked off the police force. Months later, there are a new string of killings in the area. He's asked to come back to the force because the killer seems to be taunting him. So he's asked back to the force on a provisional basis, kind of to find the killer. So it turns out the killer may in fact be superhuman. So it turns out is a werewolf. So this is kind of a detective werewolf thriller, which we thought would be kind of an interesting, just an interesting concept. And then the werewolf spends time in the coal mines. Is just, I mean, I think that's one of the things that Scott mentioned when I was first scouting here 13 months ago. I think Scott said something like he loves werewolf movies, and I was like, oh, what if the werewolf is, you know, lives in the coal mines or goes back and forth in the coal mines, kind of as his lair. And that's what one of the major changes we did to the script that I had was making it kind of a werewolf, adding the werewolf elements to what was a serial killer, kind of a typical serial killer story. It became a more of a werewolf thriller. Yeah.
What is the plan for the movie then, if I could ask and let our audience kind of get a preliminary, what's going to happen with this movie?
I mean, all my movies have gotten international distribution, so there may likely be some kind of a theatrical release, even if it's a limited theatrical release. I've been very fortunate to get some recent movies in drive-ins and in various theaters. And then after that, it goes to the usual streaming, digital sites. The Amazon, the iTunes, stuff like that. There may be we always hope for DVD release. I love physical media, so unfortunately, Walmart and a few places are the only places you can really find DVDs anymore. But I hope that it gets a good DVD or Blu-ray release. And then Tubi, the usual digital streaming sites. It might play on some bigger platforms. It just depends. And then of course internationally. Again, everything I've made and Mark's made too is pretty much sold internationally to many foreign territories. So yeah,
if you had
even in Hungary.
If you had a projected release,
hopefully, in the near future, yeah.
A projected release date, would you think?
It takes a few months to edit movies. People don't understand. These days, everybody wants something right away. Like, we'll post that we're filming a movie, and then, like, somebody's going to make a comment that, oh, how can I see it? It's like, we're still filming the movie. You cannot see it anywhere unless you're on set. Maybe you can see it being filmed. I would say approximately a year from now. Yeah, so it'll take us 4 to 6 months probably to finish the movie, and then it takes us several months to come out. So give or take a year.
And that's what's so impressive about you, Jeff, is as a filmmaker, that your movies, as we just discussed, they get out there. So many people say they're making movies and everything, but do they have a real plan for when the movie's done, what to do with it? And as you explained to us, I mean, it's something to be proud of, that your movies do get that distribution out there, that the rest of the world could see the locations you shot at, see the actors, watch the movie and things like that. And again, I think that's a major selling point for small cities to say, you showcased us in a movie that's going to be broadcast, whatever format that is, throughout the country, the world.
I've licensed movies to Showtime and to Lionsgate and various platforms and Netflix, of course. Mark's had a movie released theatrically in Australia, years ago by Fox. So our movies get out there, and hopefully they get seen. It's too, as you know, it's the hard work making a movie. So for it not to get released and out there, it would just be something very frustrating. Not a feeling I would want to have. So yeah.
And you hit on a very important point when you said about how hard it is making movies. We spent together 2+ weeks in the area filming with the crew and cast and everything, and there's so many long hours, 12+ hours and everything like that. But again, the finished product is what razzle-dazzles people.
Yeah, that's the rewarding part, is being able to see it. Like, I don't understand people that take 2 years to finish their movie or whatever, or just never get seen. That's just like, that would just be super frustrating to me. So.
Yeah, I think we always I think when Jeff and I are making films together, and we've made quite a few now, that, we always feel that urgency to get straight into the next process. I mean, we shot the first part of this outside the state, a few days in LA. Like, that's already being edited now. I've already got like the first 20 minutes, and that's only like 2.5 weeks after that. So it's important to just keep pushing forward all the time, and because you're also then dealing with a whole new, sort of in a way, a plethora of new people, like, sound people and musicians and editors and all that, even beyond the shoot. So then you're sort of like juggling all the schedules of all that as well, because this has got to be finished before you do this, and this is going to be finished before you do this. So you really can never take your eye off the ball. And in terms of a producer and even a director, like I can never just go, oh yeah, I'm just going to let them, do it. No, I've got to be on them all the time. Like, let's listen to what you've done so far. Then I have to adjust it with working with musicians. It's the same thing. You might go, okay, and I was just doing that like on the last film, just a few weeks ago, because that's still in post too. And then, talking to the composer, okay, let's slightly move it towards that direction or this direction. So, yeah, it never really ends. It's just like an ongoing process. And then in distribution, it's the same again. It's an ongoing process because you're always bringing materials to everybody. And so it's a very complex process making a movie. And like same with shooting a movie, like as you saw, you're on the set. It's not just getting actors and going action and making sure it plays out. You're making it work in the location. So you've also got restrictions within the location that are weather. Also restrictions about where everybody is parked. Suddenly like, okay, we've got to wait 10 minutes because we've got to move the cars because we're now looking over there. And then special effects restrictions as well. The effect didn't work. We're now going to wait another half hour. So you're always dealing with time. You're always dealing with the weather. You're always dealing with stuff that no one sees when they watch the movie. So sometimes I think that it's almost a miracle that any movie gets finished when you think of all the complications that are associated with filmmaking.
Yeah, because again, like Mark says, there's things you never see on the screen, like dealing with like flights that are canceled or delayed, or accommodations or transportation, rental vans and rental cars, and just things that unfortunately don't show up on the screen, but are things that producers and various people have to deal with. Yeah,
I'd say the one thing though that does make filmmaking perhaps a little bit slightly easier than it was, say, 20 years ago, is that everything's got a lot lighter, like even lights. Like it used to be like you had super heavy lights that if they fell, you could kill someone with those lights. Whereas now, we're using mostly, variations on LED lights. So everything is lighter. The cameras are a little bit smaller. I mean, there's still complications. It's not, because if you're using good cameras, you still have issues associated with cameras. You've still got to have a focus puller. You've still got to have things like that. Like that hasn't gone away. But I mean, even that is getting, even though that's getting easier because of technology. But yeah, but there's still stuff that's just, if you want to get quality, it's not just something that you just throw a camera on a tripod and go, okay, rolling. You're changing lenses. You're actually, you've got to manage you've also got to manage all the footage that you're shooting, because now you're shooting you're not shooting like on negative, so you're shooting like, Super 8 or 16 or 35. You're shooting digitally, but it's massive amounts of space on drives as well. So all of that's got to be accounted for. So you've got issues you never had before, but film has its own, film had its own challenges, but digital's got its own challenges as well.
So for all of our viewers that are interested in becoming filmmakers, you're getting some good behind the scenes information about what a very complicated process it is to make a movie.
It's complicated, and it's good to, and I think especially like what I do, because I've produced and directed, but I also, my background is like shooting. I DP'd for a long time. I still DP. So it's good to try to know all the key jobs, at least to some extent, because it really helps as a director then to understand what the challenges are of other people, but also knowing that sometimes if someone tells you I can't do that, to be able to say, yes, you can, I know you can, because I've done it.
Well, a lot of good information behind the scenes. I want to turn our focus a little bit to our star, Mr. Bronzi, and obviously our audience is going to say, what an uncanny resemblance to Charles Bronson you have, but the legendary actor Charles Bronson, but you're also legendary as well for you've done many movies. A lot have been released in the United States. I know you have a major career in Europe and Spain, a little bit throughout there. Would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the things that you have done as far as your career goes?
Well, so I have done a lot of, not a lot of movie, a couple of movies. I'm joking. So my career started in Spain, where I worked as a stunt performer in front of the live audiences, and where I met a director, and he saw my photo on the salon wall where I worked, and he asked the owner about me, and when he found out it wasn't Bronson, because he thought it's Bronson photo, he asked the owner, who is this guy? He said, Robert Bronzi. So he wanted to meet me, and then started my career in Spain. And after that, we shot a couple of movies with him, and a couple of years later, I met Mr. Jeff Miller. He is my good friend, my best friend. He is my manager, my producer, and my employer. And I'm very proud on it. And we have a lot of idea in the near future, make movies, great movies. And so I hope our dream will come true in the future.
Well, thank you for being here. As I've been involved in several movie projects through the years, you're one of the nicest actors, finest actors that I have met. You're very polite and very accommodating to your fans, to sign autographs with them, do photo ops and everything, and you're just a very wonderful person to have had the opportunity to meet with and spend time with us here in northeastern Pennsylvania making this movie, and we're going to make this a big success, this movie.
I would like to tell also, this is a sixth
movie we've done together.
Movie together, and the movies, what we shoot. I like the movies, but it's true also. I don't like so much the horror movies, but that's different. The 12 to Midnight is different because I get a really lead role in the movie as a detective, but a part of the movie is the werewolf is a little bit strange for me, but I don't care because at the end we will have a nice movie, and I hope so the audiences will be enjoy it, and we will be waiting everybody in the movies.
Well, again, I think it's a great movie just because of the idea that was described. I mean, it's a little bit of a crime thriller, a little bit of horror thrown in there, a great cast. Very proud to say we got a bunch of local extras from our area, the Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area, so I know they were thrilled to have the opportunity to touch Hollywood for a few moments, to have been involved in that movie. I mean, just some general observations of making the movie in our area. Just any additional comments or anything about dealing with us in northeastern Pennsylvania?
I mean, again, everybody, it's a beautiful country. I like traveling, and it's a beautiful area that we filmed in and stayed in. And, we stayed near Jim Thorpe, very cute town. Filmed a lot in Tamaqua, very lovely area. People were very friendly and accommodating. It's just great to have all this, help and support, because in LA, it's, people are very jaded, and, it's nice to come to an area where people are still kind of excited about films being shot in their backyard. I just love that. I think we got very fortunate, and weather was a little concerning some days, but we made it through. There were a couple of days that we lost a little time due to rain, but it fortunately did not become a major factor. So I would definitely come back here again, make another movie.
I'm going to follow up with you.
Sequel.
I'll be following up with you on that. You had a chance to see part of the southern part of northeastern Pennsylvania. We'd like to get you a little bit up to the more northern part here in Lackawanna County and places like that, again, based on all the attractions and things that we have. And again, I look at this as economic development. There's the opportunity for people to show off their talents locally and everything. And I think you had a light taste of that with this movie, again, about what we have to offer in the area. Mark, any thoughts as well as following up on Jeff about making the movie in the area?
Also, just want to mention the cast was also, not in addition to the crew, the local cast we got was very great, outstanding. We brought a handful of people from LA, but not a couple actors from LA, not many. But I was very impressed with the cast that we got in Pennsylvania.
So Mark, can we bring you back to the area to make another movie as well?
I'd love to come back to the area because, the locations were really impeccable. And also the access was really, made a big difference too, that there weren't huge distances between good locations. And also we just didn't have near the kind of red tape as you have like shooting like in New York or LA. And that's a huge difference because that saves massive amounts of time. And also, we make films that are kind of like more around the kind of like, say higher, lower to medium sort of budgets. So the whole point is, it really works well for us to like be somewhere like this where all the money can go on the screen, and then also having the locals is great because then it means that we're not bringing in so many people. But for me, it was more like the initial impression was just what an incredible area to shoot in, because ultimately, what matters to anyone watching the movie is how the film looks, how the film sounds, and we're going to have like a really amazing looking movie simply because the locations are also one of the biggest stars when you shoot here.
And obviously, when you talked about cutting through the red tape and making things happen and everything, I mean, I especially want to give a big shout out to the Anthracite Cultural Board because they assisted so much, and their involvement starts all the way up in Forest City into Carbondale and all the way down again to Tamaqua, Schuylkill County. So the whole northern southern coalfields, as we like to call it, they opened a lot of doors for us and everything. So obviously, I want to thank them for all that help.
Yeah, and Scott from that board he did an amazing job. I mean, he really did enough. He really did enough work to also be one of the producers of the movie as well, because he was so. He was just facilitating when we even stayed at his house as well. So we put people up at his house. We shot at his house too. So yeah, it just felt like a very intimate. Felt like a very intimate shoot. It just felt like a shoot that by the end of the shoot, or halfway through the shoot, it's like a family. It's like a family shooting a movie. It doesn't always feel like that in some places because everyone's from so many different places, but it was a very cohesive group here. So to come back again would be even more so, because then we'd be coming back to something where we already have shot before. And yeah, I mean, and time is your main enemy when you're making movies. It's time. And that was a great thing about shooting here, that we were able to do something in a very limited amount of time that still has like a pretty impressive scope. And that's one of the greatest things about shooting here, is that it just enabled us to, we didn't waste a lot of time. We just got right down to the business of making the film.
So I'm watching the show on TV right now, and I see this, or YouTube or wherever, and I say, why should I go along with that idea of saying, like, yes, I want to support this company, or I want to support filmmakers making movies in our area? What are some of the benefits that you see in it? I mean, we talked about economic development, we talked about trying to bring out the idea of local talent and everything, but you're sitting in Los Angeles making movies and throughout the world and country and everything. How do you encourage communities to support movie making?
I would say, well, I think one of the greatest things about like having a continuity of production is that, number one, you're building a fantastic infrastructure of local crews. You're not having to bring people from outside, and so for certain people, or hopefully more people, it could actually become a career and not just something that they do kind of between their other job. Because, I mean, nearly everyone goes through that stage of it first being something that, they take time off to go and do something, but eventually you have a continuity of production. So it means that you're building an infrastructure of people, so it really helps the employment. It's also a really great way to attract tourism, because people start watching the movie and go, where was that movie shot? So you get the regular tourism as well as what you might call filmmaking tourism, which is other filmmakers saying, oh, let's go and shoot there. So I really don't think that, that if you build an infrastructure here, your investment's never wasted. But I think also one thing that I would say is important, that I think that sometimes the much bigger movies can sometimes, I think, in a way, eat up too many resources. So I think it's often better when it's divided between films that are more low to medium budget movies, because then you've got a much more greater diversity of filmmakers coming in from various places. Because I think like some states, they almost got blown because they had, like, say, for example, they had, say, just 2 films coming from Hollywood with massive budgets. So any of the rebates and things just got blown on 2 movies. Whereas I think it's better to say, well, let's actually spread that out over 40 movies shooting, over that time, because then you've got more crews, you've got also different varieties of genres being shot too. So people work on horror films and romances and action films and Hallmark movies, you know what I mean? Like, it's good to bring something in, because this is a sort of area where you could shoot all kinds of genres. So it's in a way almost like selling it as all types of movies can shoot here, not just one type of movie. It's not just a movie in a mine,
It just has to, it benefits all the local economies. I mean, accommodations and restaurants and all the supply places, and because we're constantly going and buying, food and, where we eat today, and, we need craft services, or we need supplies from this place or a hardware store. You're always going to support the local economy. With that, you need gasoline and transportation, rental cars. So you're helping the local economies a great deal. Yeah,
and because also the other thing is too that when you have almost like a dedicated film commission type of situation, you then have things that really expedite things like, if you need to get them permits and things like that. And it just means that everything is, everything kind of like works smoothly, and and to have like a central place that oversees the filmmaking, or at least that it's a go-to place. The first connection is really important. So when people go, who do we talk to when we want to do this? To know it's like there's a specific body that you can talk to, or just a couple of people that really helps things. And generally, when it's happened for a few years, then they're going to have lists of all the people who are available. So it becomes like a really, really good resource of, great place to shoot and lots of people there who are experienced, as opposed to some places, even where we've been, where it's been, okay, great place to shoot, but very few locals who are experienced. So we've still got to bring people in from, say, 2 hours away. It's much better to be able to go, okay, great place to shoot, and most of the people are local, but then the smaller amount of people who, like us, who come in, then that's all the people who are also going to be staying and going to be, using all the restaurants, using the motels, the hotels, that type of thing. So yeah, it really does build it up, but it can't happen in a year. It's a sort of thing. It's almost like initially a 5 to 10 year plan, because that's how long it takes. Well, like any business, really, it just doesn't happen overnight. It's got to be like dedicated to building something that's very solid. And I think definitely Tamaka and or Scranton or Jim Thorpe are definitely places where you can build that, because you do have the natural locations, and also you have the roads, the infrastructure, the bridges and all that, because again, all of that you need to be able to make a film, because the main thing that we need is like an efficiency of work and efficiency of the process, so that the money's being well spent. We're not overspending, we're not going broke making a film, we're basically making sure that it all fits within the parameters of the budget.
And I also think, obviously, it creates community pride, too. When you have the community rally behind it and say, like, I feel like I'm a part of this team, this movie
That's
making.
really important. Well, because I come from, I originally come from Australia, and Australia, has more smaller, it's a smaller filmmaking hub in the sense that, it's not really Australian films. It's people in the states, different states making movies. And I'd, in a way, kind of definitely compare that a little bit to, say, like here, like shooting in Melbourne or shooting whatever. It's smaller. It's like smaller areas, but you can still do a huge amount in the smaller areas, because often they have actually much better benefits. It's often better to shoot in a smaller town than it is to shoot in a city, because as you know, shoot in a city, you've got massive complications and massive infrastructure costs.
Well, and plus you also have the chance to meet stars and celebrities, in which fans love that. Mr. Bronzi?
Mr. Bronzi, and we also have in the movie, we have Tito Ortiz, UFC champion, and actor Tito Ortiz. He was great. We filmed his scenes in California. Dan Roebuck, I want to mention, who's from Pennsylvania. He's from the Lehigh Valley, and he's also in the movie. And he was very helpful with recommending some crew people for us as well. So, and Sadie Katz came from LA to play a sheriff in the movie, and she was amazing also.
Yeah,
but we rented it out with a lot of great local cast, most of whom were from Pennsylvania. So yeah, it's great.
Gentlemen, any last words or comments or thoughts about the film 12 to Midnight and filming in northeastern Pennsylvania? Mark, any?
I'd say, yeah, definitely. Google 12 to Midnight. Google 12 to Midnight often, so you're going to learn then when it's eventually coming out. And love to come back here and make another movie.
Mr. Bronzi? Last words for us?
It's a great honor for me to be here with you and know this country, because I wasn't before here in my life, first time. So I met very, very amazing, with a lot of amazing people. I get a lot of new friends, so I would like, I will have make contact with them. We talked about, and I would like to come back again with my manager, with my filmmaker, also. So I hope they were satisfied with me, because I try to do everything with my best knowledge. A very nice place. Do you remember we talked about my country, Hungary? Very similar. The trees, the forest, people, nice people here. So I hope in the near future, maybe not this year, maybe next year, we will come back and we will make another new movies.
Well, we would certainly welcome you back.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, would love to come. It was a great experience here. There was great help, great locations. definitely come back. And yeah, just have people, like Mark said, have people, Google the movie, look us up. We'll probably have a, social media page at some point. But yeah, in approximately a year, it should be coming out. So hopefully people will support it and support this movie is independently financed. So hopefully they will support that. And it's kind of like a mom and pop business. Support it so people, we can continue to make these kind of movies and bring more films to the area.
And support, and to me also, like support I think the really unique talent that is Mr. Bronzi here. I was really impressed as a director with his performance in the movie. He, as we know, it's also, English is not his first language, but he was actually, I was really, really impressed with the language skills and his role. I think he's very, very strong, very, very strong. And I thought took directions great, and sort of really added such an interesting personality and such an interesting authority to his performances. So yeah, I couldn't have been happier with his performance. I'm really looking forward to cutting it together and seeing what we.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
He really grew into the role.
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Mark
Thanks,
Savage,
Bob.
our director from the film.
My pleasure.
Jeff Miller, producer of the film. Robert Bronzi, star of the film. I want to thank you for the opportunity of allowing Northeastern Pennsylvania to be showcased in a movie that will get national recognition, international recognition out there, being seen everywhere. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be involved in the film, to be one of the producers with you, Jeff. And just want to welcome you all back to Northeastern Pennsylvania again. Sounds southern when I said you all, to come back and make a future movie. But thank you again for being our guest, for making a movie in the area. I'm Bob Savakinus. Thank you for tuning in to A Nutshell, and I want to shake the hand of my newfound friend, Mr. Bronzi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.